Look at us back again, 2 nights in a row. Rutgers basketball adding Bosnian guard Harun Zrno, 6'6", on Monday to the roster, 12th scholarship player for the 25-26 season. And it was a much-needed addition for Rutgers. Legit shooter, shot 44% in Bosnian Professional League, and was a pretty sought-after international prospect. He is 21 years old. He does have 4 years of eligibility. The whole eligibility thing with pro leagues in Europe a little bit different, but was formerly committed to Indiana, decommitted after Mike Woodson left, fired, whatever it may be. Took visits to Villanova and Miami. Was recruited by Wisconsin, Creighton, Virginia. So, in terms of the programs that were after him, Rutgers has had a European recruiting presence for a while now, and you have to imagine that the due diligence in terms of relationships, scouting, really paid off here. And listen, there's no way to know if this kid's going to pay off or not, right? But this is why I was negative earlier, and this is why I'm much more positive now. Is that, Bay Fall yesterday, and now Zerno today, Buchanan previously. For me, they fit a Steve Pikiell type of player. You can see them filling a certain role that fits his style of play and that has definable skill sets that can be assets and bring real contributions to this team. And Fall might end up not ever developing at the collegiate level. Zerno might not fully translate overseas. Buchanan, maybe he doesn't regain his form that he had as a freshman. We don't know. But in terms of strategic decisions, in terms of having a plan, they all make sense to me. And I think the reality here, I talked about this some last night at Rutgers being basically house poor. They have the rev share money. They have the Vegas money. They don't have a lot of cash up front. And a lot of other programs do. And I think that was maybe underestimated going into this offseason. I've talked about it before, inflation. They have $4+ million to work with, 5, whatever it may be. Last year they had under 2. But everybody has more money now because of rev share. So it still goes back to that NIL. And someone commented to me last night's pod about, the regulation that's supposedly going to happen. I mean, nothing's even been fully approved yet. I am confident the rev share is going to happen. I mean, they were talking about increased rosters. Now it sounds like that's not going to happen. I guess I'm just skeptical that NIL is going to be regulated to the degree where, schools have NIL before NIL, it was cash under the table, dropping a bag, right? That's always going to exist. It's always going to exist, whether there's regulations or not. And so I'm not optimistic that that's ever going to change. Obviously, the rev share is a game changer overall. But again, it's also inflation too. Everybody's just getting more. Players that are decent players are getting more money. The price for good players goes up. So again, Rutgers is not. I think everybody hears $5 million and thinks, oh, they got a lot of money. But comparatively, even to all the Big East schools, they're not there in terms of the level that those schools have. But I think that just speaks to needing to thread that needle, and your margin for error is just so much more thin, right? And yeah, next season could end up blowing up and they can be really bad, right? But I think in terms of the roster they're assembling now, there should be more hope that this could be a throwback Steve Pikiell type team, right? You certainly added a lot of athleticism. Going back to, I should talk a little bit more about Zerno here. I watched the film on him. The kid could shoot. He to steal a line from former Rutgers assistant Dickie V. He tickles the twine. The net pops when his shot goes in. He's got some real touch. He's got a quick release. He's got a high release. In terms of his shot, he's 6'6", 6'7". He can get it off. He honestly, the way his shot goes in, it really does remind me of Cam Spencer a little bit. Obviously, different build of a player, but high release point. But the way it splashes, the net splashes when it goes in. I mean, he doesn't, when he makes shots, he doesn't hit the rim. It's perfectly in the net. He's an accurate shooter, and he's a true spot up shooter. He can shoot off ball screens. He can make shots in transition. He can get in the lane a little bit, but he really is a perimeter threat. And I think with the way they're built now, he's going to get a lot of opportunity. And of course, he's got to be able to stay. He's got to be able to defend to a average degree, right? At worst, to be able to stay on the floor. And that was a problem. Obviously with PJ Hayes and Zach Martini last year, they really couldn't hang defensively. I think Rutgers could be a lot more interesting defensively this year now, with guys like Grant and Buchanan and Fall, speedy small guards. Again, still skeptical there. No disrespect to Tariq Francis, but that was the one that, for me, when you already have Lino Mark and Davis, Jermichael Davis, the fit there I question it. I'm concerned about having three small guards. Again, not a lot of offensive efficiency there. And defensively, in the league, like if you have to play two small guards, that's I think you put yourself at a little bit of a disadvantage. Almost like playing, one behind your back a little bit. So we'll see. Francis is a depth piece. If Lino Mark can emerge, if Jermichael Davis can take another step forward, if Chris Nwili can really be a factor from day one and either be a starter or a key guy off the bench. He really had a great end of his high school career. I think this team could be better than people are on face value giving this team credit for. I think my point to what I was saying is you really have to hit on a lot of these moves. The margin for error for Rutgers is a lot less than a lot of other programs. And I think that we're seeing it in football now with Motoré leaving. People saying, I saw a lot of speculation. Shiano told him to leave. He's not healthy enough. I don't think that's it at all. I think there's a lot of programs out there. Not when I say a lot, there's, maybe 24 programs with real money that can afford to throw money at death pieces and insurance policies. Tere's got a lot of upside. If he doesn't turn out fully healthy, if he's not the same player, okay, well, a booster gave them, a ton of money to take a flyer on him. And I think in basketball, I've seen that too. I think part of what Bay Fall, not having a lot of minutes is he went to two programs, had a ton of cash, he got paid, and he played behind better talent. Now, he's got a real chance for minutes at Rutgers, and I think they probably got him at a better value because he has gotten paid before, and now the kid wants to play. So I think they made some sound strategic decisions here. I don't think there's any guarantees. I think it's easy to sit here and poo-poo them all. Again, I've said from the beginning, I'm trying to be genuine. I didn't like one of the pickups. I see the vision. I like the pickups with Buchanan, Fall, and Zerno. None of them are sure things. None of them are home run hits. They could all end up being really good pickups. And Rutgers could have a season better than people are expecting right now. And what does that mean? Is there an NCAA tournament team in this roster somehow? Can they mold it out of clay? I think it's possible. Is it likely at this point on paper? It's hard to say how the rest of the Big Ten is looking right now. And I think for this team, this is very much you can't worry about everybody else. You got to worry about yourselves. You got to get back to Steve Pikiell basketball. You have to get back to your identity. You have to get back to a style where they need to be disruptive defensively. They can't rely on being this efficient half-court team. I don't think they have that kind of roster. So they're going to have to find a groove. They're going to have to find a style that works for them. I do think they could be better than people thought 2 days ago because I think Fall and Zerno checks the boxes. And I think you're starting to see a rotation here that certainly I think has some intriguing upside. They have one scholarship spot left based on the traditional 13, and you need another shooter or a guard. You need a bigger guy. I would love a 3-and-D player to kind of solidify the roster there. I'd feel even better about this team in that case if they could do that. I don't think this can just be, an ad, kind of a low-key ad, depth piece. I think this is someone that, you got to add somebody that can make an impact and strengthen this rotation. Again, I think Mark and Willie, as freshmen, can certainly be in this rotation and be real factors for this program. Fall and Buchanan. Now, technically Zerno adds to the freshman class as well. But you got a 21-year-old professional freshman, a guy with length, a guy that could shoot. You watch his tape. The kid could shoot. And, typically European players, they're tough. Rutgers got older. Fall's going into his third year. Buchanan's going into his third year. Zerno's 21. Francis is going into his third year. You have Davis back, a 3-year guy. So they're older. And I think maybe a little bit more mature. I think you have some guys that have been in certain situations, certain teams. You would think maybe that they're coming with a little bit of a stronger acumen from a basketball-wise perspective. I think Jay Young, being already part of this program now, last year joined kind of, in the summer. He's got some clay to mold now with Fall. Agbole is still, he's going to, I think at this point he's going to play. And what can you get out of him? Can he take another step from second year to third year? Listen, I'm not up here waving the pom-poms. If you ask me right now, is this team an NCAA tournament team? I would say no. Do I think that the ceiling is possible? Yes. Do a lot of things have to go right for that to happen? Absolutely. But again, I think it goes back to how true are you to your identity? How true are you to yourself as a program? And Zerno, to me, checks a lot of boxes in terms of what they needed, the type of player I think they're getting. He averaged 17.5 points, 3.6 assists, 3.7 rebounds, shot 56% from the floor, 44% from long distance, 31 to 71. Fall brings a ton of athleticism. I forgot to mention last night, his foul rate is off the charts. Like, he's got to learn how not to foul. So there's a long way to go there. I think Buchanan's tough as nails. I think, if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a really solid player for Rutgers. Pieces are starting to come together. I think Javante Ware, Caden Powers, and the freshman class of projects are going to take time. They're not going to factor too much in. Bryce Dortch, he's got a ton of springiness. He's a real athlete. He's got to add some weight and muscle. Can Jay Young develop him? There's a lot of unknowns here. There's no sure things anymore. Rutgers is operating, at a disadvantage. And yeah, Pikiell deserves some scrutiny and some criticism there. There's also no administration. I'll save people that, I went into detail last night. If you didn't hear, check it out towards the end of yesterday's episode. But there's a lot of disadvantages here. I think at the end of the day, when that is the case, you have to find what works for you and you have to make the most of it. And I do think that Steve Pikiell has gotten some wins on the trail here the last couple of days, puts his team in better position. Still think it's an uphill battle. You got to hit. You can't go for 6 for 10 on this roster, right? You got to hit on it. Everybody's got to find a role and be productive. You got to stay healthy. But I really like the pickup of Zerno. I think he's a great shooter. Again, took visits to Miami and Villanova, Creighton, Virginia, and I forgot who else I mentioned. Wisconsin, right? Former Indiana commit. I mean, the kid can play. Is he going to turn out to be an all league player? Who knows? Can he be a capable starter? Let's hope so. They need him. But I think you get a lot of shots on this roster. Need another shooter. Prefer a 3-and-D guy. But all of a sudden, other than, your three guards, you got a ton of size again. So that is more like a Steve Pikiell team. All in all, certainly more positive than negative the last couple of days. Still has to come together. We'll see how they fill this roster out. I think this last spot is huge for the ceiling of this team. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for listening and watching once again here at the Scarlet Faithful podcast.